My friend was a professional liar, and I didn't see it coming. When I was around 13 or 14 years old, I had a friend who told me all kinds of weird stories. Some were simple anecdotes about how she got boyfriends, which I didn't really care about, but others were much more serious. One of the worst was when she told everyone at school that a girl in our class, whose family was struggling financially, had stolen from H&M. She made it sound so believable that everyone believed her. But the worst part came later. One day, she claimed that our history teacher had followed her to volleyball practice and taken pictures of her. It was a terrible accusation. Luckily, the principal didn't believe her, because if he had, the teacher could have lost his job unfairly. Over time, I realized that everything this girl said was a lie. She had invented every story, every detail, even her own life. To this day, I still can't understand how someone so young could do something so awful.
She hit his car and mocked him, but she never expected what would happen next. A friend of a friend witnessed something crazy. An older, heavy-set man had just bought a brand-new car and parked it. Suddenly, a girl in an old, beat-up car swung her door open forcefully, slamming it into his car and leaving a huge dent. He stepped out, shocked, but before he could say anything, the girl looked at him indifferently and said, "So what?" Without thinking twice, the man climbed onto the hood of her car and started yelling, "So what? So what?" With every shout, "Bam! Bam! Bam!" he jumped and stomped, destroying her car. The police were called. Both filed complaints, but in the end, she was the one who had to pay him. Why? Because fixing the dent on his car cost more than her entire vehicle. Do you think she deserved it?
My sister ruined my wedding, and now my family blames me. I've always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, but I never thought she would go as far as ruining the most important day of my life. Since I announced my engagement, she acted strange. She wasn't excited like the rest of my family and always found something to criticize about the wedding. On the big day, everything was going perfectly, until it was time for the vows. Just as I was about to read mine, my sister stood up and yelled, "Stop the wedding! My sister is hiding something from everyone!" The whole room went silent. I froze. Then she pulled out her phone and showed some alleged messages where I supposedly talked badly about my fiancé and his family. Everyone turned to look at me, waiting for an explanation. But the worst part was seeing my fiancé's face. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me, disappointed, and walked away. The craziest part? Those messages were fake. She had edited them just to make me look bad because, in her words, if you get to be happy, I should be happy first. In the end, my wedding was canceled. My fiancé refused to listen to me, and now my whole family says I'm overreacting for cutting her off.
My best friend stole my baby name, and now I am the bad guy. Since we were kids, my best friend and I always talked about our future kids. I had one name I absolutely loved, Lena. It was special to me because it was my grandmother's name, and I had told my friend about it for years. Fast forward to adulthood. I got pregnant, and when I found out I was having a girl, I was thrilled. I told my best friend, and she acted happy for me. Until a few months later, when she announced her pregnancy. I was excited for her, until I saw her baby name announcement. She had named her daughter Lena. I was in shock. I called her, thinking it was a mistake, but she just laughed and said, "You don't own a name. Besides, we both liked it, right?" I was furious. She knew how much that name meant to me, and she didn't even ask. But when I told my family, they said I was overreacting, that I could still name my daughter Lena if I wanted. But why would I? Now it would look like I copied her. I ended up choosing a different name, and honestly, our friendship was never the same after that. The worst part? She still acts like she did nothing wrong.
My coworker tried to make me look incompetent. It backfired. I work in an office where I always give my best, but there's this one coworker, Javier, who acts like he's the boss of everyone. Since the day I started, he made me feel like I didn't know anything. If I shared an idea in a meeting, he would talk over me. If I finished a project, he would nitpick the smallest mistakes. But the worst part was when he was put in charge of presenting a project we had worked on together. I had done 80% of the work, but when the presentation started, he spoke as if he had done everything himself. Not once did he mention my name. I was furious, but I stayed quiet. I knew his arrogance would betray him. When he finished his speech, our boss didn't even compliment him. Instead, he crossed his arms and asked in a serious tone, "Javier, can you explain in more detail how you handled the technical part of the project?" Javier froze. Well, what we did was," he stuttered, flipping through his notes, but he had nothing prepared. The room went completely silent. The awkwardness was painful. After a few seconds, my boss sighed and turned to me. "You worked on this too, right? Could you explain it?" I cleared my throat, stood up calmly, and explained everything. From the logic behind the code to the solutions we implemented to optimize it. I spoke with so much confidence that it became crystal clear who had actually done the work. When I finished, my boss smiled and said, "Thank you. Excellent explanation. It's obvious you know the topic well." Javier couldn't even look me in the eye. His plan to take all the credit had completely fallen apart. After that meeting, he never tried to belittle me again. And the best part? I didn't have to do anything to embarrass him. He did it all by himself.
He called our daughter a mistake. From the moment I got pregnant, I noticed Daniel changed. We used to talk about names, about what life would be like with a baby, but when the test came back positive, all his excitement disappeared. I thought he was just scared. Maybe he needed time. When our daughter was born, I hoped things would change. That seeing her would make him feel that instant love everyone talks about. But it didn't. When he held her for the first time, he just stared at her in silence. Then he looked at me with an unreadable expression. "This should have never happened," he whispered. I froze. Maybe I misheard him. Maybe he was just exhausted. But over time, his attitude only got worse. He wouldn't hold her, wouldn't call her by her name. He barely looked at her at all. Until one night, I heard him mumbling something while holding her. I crept closer, trying not to make a sound, and then I heard it clearly. "Mistake." I felt my blood turn cold. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He turned to me slowly, his face emotionless. "That's what she was. A mistake." I couldn't breathe. I just stood there, watching him hold our daughter as if she was nothing but a burden. That night, after he fell asleep, I took his phone. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, but I found it. An email he had sent weeks before I got pregnant. "I'm sorry, but I can't leave her now. It's too late." The recipient, a woman named Andrea. And her reply, "You were supposed to leave before it was too late." Too late. I felt sick. My daughter wasn't a mistake. The only mistake was him. The next morning, when he woke up, the house was silent. The crib was empty. The suitcase was gone. On the table, I left a single note. "The only mistake here was you."
My son asked me if he had a dad. I knew this moment would come sooner or later. But when my son looked up at me with those big, curious eyes and asked, "Mom, do I have a dad?" I froze. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I had no idea how to say it. Because, yeah, of course, he had a father. But that guy disappeared before my son was even born. Never saw him, never asked about him, never cared. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, you do." His eyes lit up. "Where is he?" I felt a lump in my throat. How do you explain to a kid that his so-called dad simply decided he didn't want to be one? I couldn't tell him the full truth, but I also didn't want to lie. "He's far away," I said, choosing my words carefully. "But that doesn't mean you don't have a family." He stared at me, thinking, but did he love me? That one hit me right in the heart. I hugged him tight and whispered, "I love you more than you can imagine." And in that moment, I realized something. That man may have been his biological father, but the real dad in my son's life was me.